Hi everyone, we are going to continue our discussion about CSE 131 and Python, and today we are going to focus more on the strings. Okay, let's do a very short review. White spaces. What did we learn about the white spaces in last lecture? Well, you may remember that if you want to add a space at before an operator or after an operator, that is okay in Python, and probably we know that. And in addition, if you want to add a white space at the very beginning of a statement in Python, can you do that? At the very beginning of a line of the code, if you add a white space, that will be considered as indentation, right? And if we don't use consistent indentation, and Python will have difficulty in parsing our code. And comments. So for the comments, we talk about two ways of commenting our code. The first way is if you do triple quotes, and we can comment multiple lines of the content. And or if you just want to use a hashtag, and then we are adding a one-line comment, right? So for the comments, there are two different uses, and we can use the comments to just as a documentation to explain what we are doing. And another way is if we have some difficulty in fixing part of our code, and what we can do is we just comment that out for now. And let me go back to the day 3 exercise and give you an example. So here, let's assume that this is part of the code. I know there's some problem and I don't know how to fix. For now, if I just want to continue, what the easiest way that I can do is say I'm going to just use the one-line comment to comment out those two lines of code, and then as you can see, the right line will disappear. This means I still understand there might be something wrong with the code I don't know how to fix for now, but if I want to continue to do the work, the easiest thing I can do is I just comment the code out for now. Okay? And well, we talk about the naming conventions. And in Python, if you want to name an object, what we can do is we can create a name with underscores, numbers, upper letters, lower letters, right? And what else? We cannot have a variable start with a number, okay? And remember, there are a bunch of the reserved keywords. And for example, if you want to create a variable called class, and the answer is you can't do that. The reason is class is a reserved keyword. And we also talk about some of the shorthand operators like plus equals, minus equals, divided equals. So though some people call that shorthand operators, and I would say they are handy shortcuts. Okay, so today we are going to move on and talk more about the strings, and we will learn how do we format strings, and we will also revisit some of the other data types and how to do the casting, and later we will also talk a little more about the arrows. Probably at this time, and you have already started writing some of the programs, and when you have some arrows, and it can be frustrating, right? So we are going to go through some of the major categories of the arrows in Python. So the very first thing, strings. Well, we just use strings to represent a sequence of the letters or characters. And for example, we use that when we did the first program, that is the print hello world, and you know the hello world are coded, and that is a string. And what we are really doing in the print is we want to print an string, and that string is hello world. So we define that string and then we send it to Python, and Python will print that string for us. And another example is this one. So when we do the input, well, we usually give a prompt, right? And that prompt, again, is a string. So we give the string as what's your name. And interesting, here's something interesting. We use the double quotes, right? So double quote, what's your string? And inside we have a single quote. I assume that's okay, right? So why? Because when we use the double quotes, Well, Python will look for, when we start a string with a double quote, and then Python will scan through the string and look for another double quote to finish the string. And inside, if you want to use single quotes, that's fine. Okay, so when we do the input and for the prompt, that's also a string. And another thing, when we take the user's input, we assign that to a variable name called name, right? So this name also holds a string. So from the input, it's guaranteed we will always get a string. Okay, and then if we want to do hola, and then comma, space, and plus the name, and then we will just print the person's name out, beginning with hola, and then, well, it can be if the person's name is Alice, and then we will say hola, comma, and then a space, and Alice, right? Okay, and string is probably one of the most basic data type in Python, and here is the thing we don't know. We can start a string with double quote or single quote. And the rule is, if you start with double quote, you finish with double quote. And if you want to start with a single quote, you finish with a single quote. And another rule is, if you start a string with a double quote, and then inside, it's safe for you to use single quotes. And similarly, if you start a string with a single quote, inside, it's okay that you use double quotes in the middle as long as you finish a string with another single quote. And here is another way of creating a string. If you create a string with triple quotes, triple double quotes or triple single quotes, doesn't matter. If you create a string with triple quotes, and then all the double quotes and the single quotes will stay inside the string defined with triple quotes safely. Okay, for this one, I start a string with triple double quotes, and then I finish that with another set of triple double quotes, and inside I use one single quote, one double quote, and they are both fine. And here are some of the operators. Well, we can do a plus between numbers, right? It's like 10 plus 5, that's 15, and Python can do that. However, if you are doing addition between a string and a number, and then Python will give you a type error, and probably you have already seen that. The reason is, well, Python cannot perform arithmetical operators between a number and a string, okay? However, if you do have a string plus another string, so string plus another string, and in Python that is called concatenation, and concatenation is supported, string concatenation is supported in Python. Say I create a variable called banana, and then I create another variable called baked good, and that is a space and not bread. And if I want to just combine those two strings together to make a string banana, not bread, and I can do that, and that is called concatenation because they are two strings, right? And then I can simply do fruit and plus baked good, and then I print that, and then I'm performing a string concatenation, and then I print the concatenated strings out. Okay, and here is another trick we can do with the print statement. That is, we can print multiple objects together in a single print statement. For this one, I do print fruit and then a comma and then a baked good. And in this case, well, I need to remind you, and there will be an extra space, because when you are doing the print the fruit, and then you got the banana, and then because you use a comma to separate those two objects, banana and not bread, and then by using the comma, there will be an extra space introduced. Okay, later I'm going to show you, I'm going to write the code, and then I'm going to run and show you what do I mean. And the next thing is print a fruit multiplied by 2. Well, that's weird too, because fruit itself is a string multiplied by 2. What is that? And well, you will have banana, banana. Okay, so plus and multiplication, those are two arithmetic operators, and they work in strings, but with different meanings. For the addition, for the plus, that is string concatenation, and for the plus, the for the multiplication, that is string repetition. Okay, so let me stop here for now, and let's just grab this code and run that in PyCharm. So I'm gonna create a file. Let me copy, paste, and then I'm gonna change the file name to 04. Okay, and then I delete all the content, and I go back and I want to grab this part of the code. Here, so banana and space not bread. Okay, if I want to run this file, and you will find there's a slight difference. So for the first solution, you got banana and then a space, not bread, right? So banana space, not bread. And for the second one, well, you print the fruit first, that is the banana. And then by doing a comma by default, Python will add a space. And then Python will print the second object, which is a string, and then you will have the not bread starting with a space. So in this case, when you will see, well, the comma introduces space, and then there is an extra space brought from the not bread. So you will have two spaces in this case. So if I don't want this solution, I only want to keep this solution. The easiest thing I can do is I can take out this space. So in this case, I print banana, and then by using the comma, a space will be added anyhow, and then I can just print the not bread without a space at the beginning, right? So let me do this one. Okay, so banana, not bread. Okay, so let me try something else. So say bread equals banana, not bread. Okay, so this is fine. And say if I want to do something weird, I want to add single quotes here. Can I do that? So let me print bread, and let me run this again, and you find that's okay. So inside of a string defined with double quotes, I can use single quotes in the middle. So let me try the reverse way. So I want to do the single quotes in the middle, and this string is defined with, I want to put the double quotes in the middle, and this string is defined with single quotes. Can I do that? Run this again. Okay, that's also fine, right? And here is another thing about the triple quotes. So I want to create a string with triple quotes, and this is a line, this is a string defined with, okay, let me hit an enter here, triple quotes. And this can be multiple lines too. Okay, so this string also works. So let me give it another name called super string equals, okay? And then if I want to print our super string, and what are you going to see? Are we going to print a string with a total of 3 lines? Okay, it's here, right? So, well, okay, I added a space at the very beginning. I don't want to. Multiple, and I spelled it wrong too. Okay, so let me run this again. And this is a string defined with triple quotes, and it can be multiple lines too. And let me try something strange. So add a quote here, add a triple quote here, another single quote, another triple quote. Is that okay? Let me try this one, and the answer is yes. So in a string defined with triple quotes, and it's safe to use any number of the single quotes and the double quotes in the middle. Okay, so well, I'm gonna stop the video from here.